already there is buzz about people wanting to grab the Islanders, for example, in this product with Matthew Schaefer having his first autographs.
You best believe that I have all my ducks in a row, and I have my breaks already listed on Fanatics Live. I look forward to this.
Hey everybody, welcome into another edition of Nonsense on Ice here on the SCN Media Network. Doug Plagens here with you, talking all things National Hockey League hockey, tying it back to the hobby. We've got an exciting show here for you today. A special guest coming up, and that's going to be a big chunk of today's episode. My friend and yours from David Adams Card World, Troy Licastro, will be stopping by. We'll chat with him coming up around the middle of the episode. So some great stuff with Troy. We'll talk about the upcoming Black Diamond release from Upper Deck. We'll talk about the Toronto Expo. He was there. I was not able to be there. He said it was a great time. We'll talk about that coming up here in just a few moments. Talk about some of the rookies from Upper Deck Series 1. So we'll get into a variety of topics with Troy coming up in just a little bit. So again, stick around for that. We will hit some of the storylines and observations from the week here shortly. We'll get our hobby 3 stars again, and we'll answer a few of your questions coming up as well. So why don't we dive right in to it? And the first storyline I want to get to, and from a hobby perspective, there are a few names to keep in mind here, but the Colorado Avalanche, folks, they're off to a great start. And I know I'm not breaking any hobby ground, but, well, Nathan McKinnon, he is having a Hart Trophy caliber start to the season. Cale Makar, Martin Necas signed that big contract. That's a name to keep an eye on. But the Colorado Avalanche this season, coming out of the gate strong, to say the least. 12-1-5, the record at the time of this recording on a Sunday, 12-1-5, the only team in the National Hockey League with just one regulation loss here at this point in time. And the stats at this moment, Nathan McKinnon leading the league in points with 33, leading the league in goals with 14. And Nathan McKinnon, you can pick up his Young Guns BGS 9.5 rookie cards from back in 13-14, usually in the high $400 range, low $500 range. That's one to keep an eye on, especially in comparison to some of the newer stuff. Nathan McKinnon's on a future Hall of Fame track and having another monster season. Just one of the Avalanche players to keep an eye on. David Pastrnak got to the 400-goal plateau. Already some milestones being checked off here from certain individuals early in the National Hockey League season. But David Pastrnak of the Bruins, we'll get to him a little bit more in our Hobby 3 stars, but 400 goals for him. We'll expand on that in just a few moments. And the Hall of Fame induction, folks, this is the one I wanted to spend a little bit of time on here, but the Hall of Fame induction took place. 5 big names going into the Hockey Hall of Fame as players. Zdeno Chara, the longtime defenseman, mostly known as a Boston Bruin, a Norris winner back in 2009, 1,680 games in the National Hockey League. Zdeno Chara, his rookie card from back in 97-98. Wrote down some of the sales data here from the folks at Card Ladder. You can pick up a raw Zdeno Chara 97-98 SP Authentic rookie card, $30 to $40 range. Now, they are tough to grade. It's a reasonably rare card, especially in high grades. But Zdeno Chara rookies, pretty good buy. Big Z, still doing big things as well. Alexander Mogilny, one of my favorite players back in the 90s. Now, what works against Alexander Mogilny, and again, this is a long overdue, if you ask me, long overdue induction into the Hockey Hall of Fame. What works against him is the year his rookie cards came out. 90-91, it was right in the middle of mass production by a lot of the companies. He had a lot of options as well. He was in most of the sets that year. If I had to pick my favorite set from 90-91, and it's not just my favorite Alexander Mogilny rookie card, my favorite set from 90-91, O-Pee-Chee Premier, his PSA 10 O-Pee-Chee Premier rookie card from 90-91, you can grab that card, number 75 in the set, PSA 10 around $50. It's not a card that moves, transacts every single day, but they're out there. There are deals to be had. And again, he was in a lot of the sets from that year. And for a Hall of Famer who has a cup, who was the first Soviet player to defect to come over to North America and play in the National Hockey League, who had a 76-goal season, a guy who, again, kind of paved the way for a lot of the players that came afterward. Just a special player, fun to watch, and the fact that you can pick up his rookie card so reasonably, that is a bargain, it feels like, a bargain. And again, not a financial advisor here, just a hobbyist like all of you, but I look at that as a bargain. Jumbo Joe Thornton, congratulations to him, going into the Hockey Hall of Fame. That 1997 Upper Deck flagship rookie card, number 370 in the set. You can pick up raws still around $10. Now, it's if it's raw, there's probably a reason it's been left raw all these years. But PSA 10s, you can pick those up for about $145, $150. There are 424 PSA 10s of the Joe Thornton rookie card from that Upper Deck flagship set. The Black Diamond rookie for him, that's the much rarer one, the tougher one to find, the tougher grade, if you will. That's going to cost you over $100 for a raw copy. Duncan Keith, two-time Norris Trophy winner, Conn Smythe winner, 3 cups in Chicago. Congratulations to him going into the Hall of Fame. Seems pretty cheap. A raw young gun for Duncan Keith. Anywhere recent sales, $23 to $46 for a Duncan Keith raw 05-06 young gun rookie card. That's the Crosby Ovechkin set. So it's kind of become an iconic set. 2 PSA 10s in the month of October sold, $162 and $174. So again, pretty reasonable price for a guy who back during the centennial season, 2017, was named as one of the 100 greatest players in league history. I know I'm throwing a lot of names at you, but that's kind of what we do here on Nonsense on Ice. And then going in representing the women's game, Jennifer Botterill, 4-time Canadian Olympian. She has an autograph from 09-10 Upper Deck, the champions, pulled some sales from that. You can pick up a raw version of that. The last sale in November recently, I'd say about a week and a half ago or so, under $30 for one of those, for an autograph of a Hall of Famer, one of the great women's players of all time, and still very visible and active as a television analyst and doing a heck of a job there in that career. So Jennifer Botterill into the Hall of Fame, and Brianna Decker, 2-time U.S. Olympian, into the Hall of Fame as well. Couldn't find really any cards for Brianna Decker, but something to keep an eye out for down the road as she has gone into the Hockey Hall of Fame, and deservedly so. So some names going into the Hall of Fame. The Hall of Fame inductions, always a special time. I mentioned we had a guest coming your way from Dave and Adam's Card World, my friend and yours, Troy Licastro, to talk all things hockey cards, Toronto Expo, Series 1, upcoming Black Diamond releases, talking about the Matt Schaefer autographs, the Matthew Schaefer autographs. They're going to be in Black Diamond. Let's get to our interview segment for the week.
Well, kind enough to join us here on Nonsense on Ice, the first guest in the history of Nonsense on Ice, the long and storied history of Nonsense on Ice that goes back roughly a week and change. My friend and yours from Dave and Adams, he's Troy Licastro, kind enough to stop by to talk about a lot of things happening in and around the hockey hobby. Troy, first of all, thank you so much for stopping by. How are things there in Western New York today?
Hey, man, thank you. What an honor and a pleasure to be the first guest. When I hosted a podcast called The Chase for Dave and Adams, I know what it was like to have our first guest. So this is a very big deal to me. So I appreciate it. Western New York, we're looking in the 40s and 50s today. It's a little chilly, but as some would say, probably perfect hockey weather. It's a perfect day for hockey. So despite the weather outside, we're definitely staying positive, and we're staying warm inside.
Hockey weather, football weather, it's brisk, it's fall,
Right.
it's a good feeling there. I'd call it refreshing. That's what I would call it, the weather like that. Well, first of all, Troy, we're going to get into a few things here, but I did mention the Sabres last week on the first edition. I said that the Sabres in a Series 1 break, I called it a good value. It was my value pick of the week. Was I crazy for thinking that in an Upper Deck Series 1 break, the Sabres were a good little cheap chase, a value chase in the product?
No, I don't think you were very far off at all. I mean, I know when I was selling my breaks, I was trying to make that point, because you got to think about it too, right? With flagship, you're pretty much guaranteed at least one young gun of the player that, represents the team that you buy. So obviously coming in here in the early season, they ended up calling up Oslin. Oslin is obviously the one and only young gun that the Sabres have in 25-26 Series 1, but already made an instant impact on a team that we all know are having a lot of struggles this season, bitten by the injury bug, and then just obviously this organization over the last 10 to 15 years trying to find their place in the league and trying to get back to the playoffs. And Oslin could possibly be a piece going forward. So no, I would not call you crazy. Some other people might call you crazy, Doug, but I guess as a kid from Buffalo, I'm not going to call you crazy because I think Oslin has potential, and he's showed that immediately as he's gotten called up.
Yeah, he scored his first goal, and again, the point I was making last week, especially considering what some of the spots go for when you've got a team that has a young gun, and that guy is a forward, and he was a first-round pick, and he's still a young guy. Again, considering what some of the other spots go for, I think when you have a team like that on the board, when you're looking at what's available, when you're looking at teams that might get discounted, because I feel like the Sabres have been one of those teams, I think you have far worse options that you could look at. But the product as a whole, I love Series 1. I love Upper Deck Flagship. Some of the rookies that are going to be chased all season long, all hobby year long, are in that product, whether it's Demidov or Levshinov, Zane Parekh. You go right down the list. Ryan Leonard, who I just had a chance to see play in person for the first time, and he's got some wheels. He's got a good shot. He has some moments where he does look like a 20-year-old, but he is going to be a star in the future to come. Some of the guys that are going to be in all the products, they're going to be driving the hobby this year, that are going to be driving those break spots this year, are in Series 1. Your takeaways on Upper Deck Series 1 Flagship as a whole, because I feel like for a Series 1, it's a solid young gun group.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I would say in the last couple of years, first and foremost, thank God. Thank you, Upper Deck, for what you did in 23-24. I really enjoyed the newest reconfiguration they did as a collector and as a breaker. Whether you like it or not, you definitely helped us out. 12 packs, the 12 cards. It's easier to rip now, right? It's still a fun, affordable rip. It's a great entry. It's a great start to the hockey season. Like, when Upper Deck Series 1 comes out, okay, hockey's here. It's real now. And I would argue with what you were saying that at least in the last, let's say, just handful of seasons, this group of young guns in 25-26 is probably the best Series 1 I think we've seen. Demidov is obviously already off to a hot start. Snuggerud's kind of doing his thing in St. Louis. I feel like he's helping. Unfortunately, I know Parekh got injured, but long season, 82 games. He'll be back. And, of course, Ryan Leonard had a little taste last year and continuing on this year. Obviously, it's going to be important as the Caps start to age out a little bit. They're going to need Leonard when it comes to all these guys starting to move on, especially the great 8. So, yeah, very much so. I like the product. We actually got an opportunity to break Series 1 on release day at the PSA office in Jersey City. And let me tell you, the hockey card community that we deal with at Dave and Adams, it was a buzz. Everybody was super happy with it. And you got to think about it too, Doug, when it comes to young guns, obviously you want to hold some of them.
Yep.
Right. But you're not really going to get the most out of your money for these young guns unless you're bang it out right away on release day after, a week after. You're trying to sell them. So I think what was really nice is to be able to give collectors an opportunity, right, to get those Demidovs graded, get those Snuggeruds graded, and kind of be first to market when it comes to PSA slab cards for these young guns, and obviously being able to get the most out of their chase.
He's Troy from Dave and Adams, kind enough to stop by here, and wears multiple hats there at Dave and Adams, and great to have you on board here, and the first guest here on Nonsense on Ice. Troy, the Toronto Expo. One of these days, I would love the opportunity to get up there and check out the Toronto Expo. The November Expo has come and gone. You had the opportunity to get up there. We texted. You raved about it. Again, my schedule, unless the Panthers happen to be up in Toronto with a day or two off, the chances of me being able to get up there for that at any time soon, it might be difficult for me. But you were there. Again, nothing but great things to say about not only what you picked up, you showed me some of what you got, the people that you had a chance to interact with, the general environment of the show. You had great things to say. I guess, first of all, how was your experience? I may have just let everybody know how your experience was through the text that we had, but how was your experience? And I guess give us the brief pitch why every collector, whether it be somebody who's solely focused on hockey or who dabbles in hockey but likes other stuff, why is the Toronto Expo something you should check out at some point in time?
Well, funny enough, I feel like when you and the team came into town and we broke bread, and by bread I mean we had chicken wings, obviously here in Buffalo. I feel like I that was like weeks before, and I was still talking about Toronto to you, even then. This show is just something special because I think for me it's a personal connection where before I worked at Dave and Adams and when I was a little bit younger, I was still going to this show. My dad would take me to this show, right? Obviously, we are spoiled here in Buffalo because Buffalo, Niagara Falls area, we're an hour and 15, hour and a half away from Toronto. But it is right by the Pearson Airport, which is the big Toronto airport that a lot of people fly out when they're going on international trips or, of course, just flying to Canada in general. This show is the national of Canada. So everything you know about the national, it's that. But if you're deep into the hockey card hobby and community, it's an oasis. It's paradise for a hockey card collector. But that's not to say that, now you think about it internationally and here in the States, Pokemon is huge. So there is a massive section where it's all just TCG as well. And then, of course, you do have your Jays fans. Obviously, Jays were hot this year, World Series appearance. So I definitely saw some tables with, football. And they do have the Raptors. And, basketball is such an international sport, too. So while it is, yes, primarily hockey, mainly hockey, there's a little something for everyone. And the guys, Steve and Mikey, who oversee the show and run the show, I've seen them at the National the last couple of years. So I think what people need to know and like a takeaway is these guys are going out, boots on the ground. They're doing research. They're taking things that they see at the National and these meetings that they probably have, and they're applying it to the Toronto Sport Card Expo. It's nice. It's not once a year. It's twice a year, but they've expanded. Besides Toronto, they have 2 shows in Montreal and they have 2 shows in Edmonton. So maybe you can't catch the Toronto show or you can't fly in from West Coast Canada or whatever your circumstances may be. You can hit these shows no problem. Obviously, the Toronto one is the pinnacle. It's the peak. I've watched this show go from taking up 1 hall in this expo center to now like 3 to 4. And I think these guys also understand the importance of, the content, kind of like what we're doing here, the podcasting, but also the influencers. So people that I've had the opportunity of meeting, interviewing, and getting to know, I stress to them. I'm like, I know you guys love the National. You get your content here. Go to Toronto if you can. If you have the means, if you have the passport, the proper paperwork and all that, get to this show because there's a lot of stuff moving too. It's not like everybody's just kind of window shopping. I mean, it's just like a card show where dealers are going to dealers before even people get in, and there's money moving, there's cards moving, and it's just a different buzz. You could truly feel it in the air. And I mean, I don't even go up there for work. I literally take days off and I make it a holiday. I make it a vacation for myself.
You may have mentioned already when we were talking about Series 1 some of the names, but I was going to ask you, who was hot? Who were people talking about? What was driving the hockey hobby there? We know the young players, the rookies, the recent rookies. That's a lot of what drives things. But as you went around, as you heard people talking table to table, what was hot? What were people asking for? What were people looking for? Was it Bedard, Celebrini? Did it go beyond that?
Yeah, I think I think as much as it is, but Bedard and Celebrini definitely played factors. But obviously, your Toronto Maple Leafs, even like Marner's stuff, even though Marner is now moved on and he's in Vegas, I'm sure people are now trying to kind of get rid of that stuff in Toronto and not necessarily, but I mean, a ton of Austin Matthews stuff. You see a ton of Sidney Crosby stuff. Ovechkin, obviously, on multiple tables. So, yeah, while the rookie stuff is hot, I mean, I saw plenty of tables with Demidovs. I mean, I don't think I saw a Demidov Young Gun stickered for under 300 CAD Canadian. So it was a healthy mix, I would say. And, some tables were just kind of there to flex, not in a bad way, but, you were seeing some incredibly unique cards and just some real monsters that you don't see in the wild typically. So you're seeing shield cards of different guys. You're seeing cards from old Cup, the original sets from like 05, 06, 06, 07. You're seeing some Panini hockey. When they had Dominion and Premier as well. So it's just, you can find a little bit of everything. But I would say the typical names that in hockey, it's exactly what you would think, which are the ones that are like the centerpieces of showcases.
Love the lingo there with CAD that you mentioned, but also we've seen that just going to the National. You sometimes have to go there and treat elements of it as a museum. You're going to see things that you're not going to see anywhere else, and you just have to be able to enjoy those experiences. Troy, a couple more for you before we let you get going, but this week, we texted about it as well. Black Diamond is coming out. This is a set that has a history going back to the 1990s, and it's going to be the first autographs for Matthew Schaefer, for Michael Misa. Z Buyum is in it with an autograph, the rookie defenseman from the Minnesota Wild. Obviously, Demidov's in there, the other names that you've come to know and expect based on Series 1 and artifacts and things like that. These names are all going to be in there. But how much are you looking forward to ripping some Black Diamond coming up this week, and what do you look forward to out of that? I would imagine already there is buzz about, people wanting to grab the Islanders, for example, in this product with Matthew Schaefer having his first autographs.
Yeah, and you best believe that I have all my ducks in a row, and I have my breaks already listed on Fanatics Live for next week. So I look forward to this. And what's nice too is it's a breath of fresh air in terms of, it's nice to see that I would argue, Doug, that Upper Deck has finally caught up. The Cup is the last product to come out for 24-25 rookies, and we're looking into next month. I believe it is set to drop. So now we can, I don't want to say put it in the past, but now we can look forward to 25-26 drops. And obviously Black Diamond is usually an early one. It makes sense, right? We got Series 1, then we got Artifacts. Black Diamond is typically the next one after that. And it holds quite a bit of weight when it comes to the staples of an Upper Deck release calendar. But like you said, Michael Misa's first autos, Matthew Schaefer's first autos. Now you got to understand, I'm speculating here, but they probably got these guys to sign at the draft, right? So it will not necessarily be their first on-card autos, but it'll just be their first autos in general.
They're in the product. They're in the product, and it's going to be huge, especially you look at Schaefer and what he's already done out of the gate. There's an appetite for his cards as quickly as you can get them. It doesn't matter what they are.
No, and that's the thing, right? As I think, people will say like, it's a sticker auto. But you know what? Let's be honest. All of us collectors at the end of the day, we're still going to try to hunt those first autos, regardless of what they are. So, all your favorites in that product are coming back. Band of Color, Jewels of the Draft, the Jumbo logo autos, Gemographies, the debut relic autos. So it's all going to be there. And I was kind of going through the checklist earlier, and, most of those guys, it's nice where Ryan Leonard may not have an auto in this insert set, but guess what? He's got an insert auto in these three. You know what I mean? So these guys seem to be well spread out throughout the product. And, it's just exciting that we'll be able to see Schaefer autos for the first time. We got a little taste, a little appetizer when it came to Artifacts with the Demidov patch autos and the Leonards and the Snuggaroos. But yeah, and it's nice. It's very breaker friendly. Whether I know breaking is always a point of contention, but it is very breaker friendly. One pack gets right down to it, 6 cards. And never forget too, it's got the living set, I would call it now, but it's got your exquisite rookies as well. And those obviously are some of the biggest rookie cards in a sense when it comes to it.
Troy, before we let you get going here, and we're excited about that Black Diamond release coming up here this week, so everybody be on the lookout for that. Had a question come up last week, and it got me thinking, and I think with each guest that we have on, we're going to probably go down this road at least for a minute. But people ask me, I'm sure people ask you, you're in it every single day. Somebody comes in off the street, maybe they're a hockey fan, maybe they're just a fan of another sport. They hear that cards are cool right now. They're interested. They want to get into it. What would be the first advice you would give somebody coming in terms of how you get started in this? I always tell people, first of all, you got to figure out what sport do you want to collect? Do you want to collect a team and a player, or do you just want to open packs and see what you get and have fun with it? What advice would you give to somebody who's coming into this for the first time?
Maybe observe first. And what I mean by that is there's so many YouTube channels and breaking channels and just, I guess influencers, for lack of a better term, that you can watch on Instagram. You could go ahead and watch these boxes and these packs get open, and you could do research. Okay, hey, I like this product. I think the cards look cool. Or, wow, okay, there's some really big hits that can come out of this set. Do I like this? Definitely research first, but I never think it's a bad idea to just kind of start low and you work your way up. So start with some flagship. Here's the thing, and if we're just talking hockey specific, obviously people love flagship. So even though it is a cheaper entry level product, those young guns, and especially like we were talking earlier, in the last few years, now we have 1 of 1 young guns. We have young guns out of 25. So there's an even more of a chase element there. So I think it's slow and steady, in my opinion. I feel like don't try to take a dive in the shallow end of the pool, get your feet wet, ask questions, right? There's a lot of people in this community that will absolutely have no problem with helping you out and saying, hey, here's this, look for this. So just don't be afraid to ask questions, do your research, do your due diligence. And then from there, you can kind of have a plan of attack. Okay, well, you know what? I'd like to just stick to singles and pick up the player that I want. Or, hey, I like the chase. I want to scratch the itch. Let me open up and see if I can pull something big.
Yeah, that's what I always say. You go and you can even, it sounds old school, go online. There are some websites that do a great job. Look at the checklists. If there's a certain team or
Yes.
player looking for, see what the checklist has on it, see what the product offers, see what's going on. I think the lawn service is going by. If that's what you might be hearing a little bit of a roar there. I think the lawnmower just went by outside. But anyways, yeah, there are a lot of different ways you can approach this. You can prepare, you can do your own research, look at checklists, watch videos like you said on YouTube. Troy Licastro, Dave and Adams, kind enough to stop by. Troy, where can everybody see you? I know you're breaking all the time. You're breaking regularly. Where can everybody see you? Where can everybody find you on the socials?
Yeah, at DA Card World, make sure you follow us across all social media platforms, because not only do we offer you hockey, there's plenty more out there. I mean, we have a store in the Netherlands now. We have a store in New York City, in Cooperstown, New York, right by the Baseball Hall of Fame. So tap into at DA Card World. That'll have everything you need, all the websites, all the links. Myself, I'm at DA_casual Troy. We had to come up with a little bit of a persona back in the day, so that's mine. Please follow me for more hockey and that. And Fanatics Live, I am on there Monday through Fridays. David Adams is the page. We have all different streams with different sports. I mainly take care of the hockey, if you couldn't have guessed by now, but you can catch me there.
Well, that's a great place to find you there, and I know folks will love engaging with you if they get on there and find you on the break channels, on the socials, wherever it might be. Troy Licastro, David Adams, kind enough to stop by and chat some hockey and some hockey cards with us. Troy, thank you so much, and I believe I will see you in tropical Buffalo in January, and can't wait to see you then.
Congratulations on everything, Doug. I love the podcast already and can't wait to have you for some more wings and beef weck when you come up here in January.
Hey, we need a beef on weck. That is good stuff. I didn't mention it last time. I'm a huge beef on weck fan. He's Troy Licastro from Dave and Adams. Troy, thank you again.
So big thanks to Troy Licastro from DA Card World there. And again, great personality, great guy, one of the good guys in the hobby. And we thank him very much for stopping by on this week's edition of Nonsense on Ice. I want to get into this week's Hobby 3 Stars before we answer a few of your questions. And I've got another value break spot to tell you about as well. But Hobby 3 Stars this week, one of the stars of the early part of the NHL season. Last week, we highlighted Cutter Gauthier of the Anaheim Ducks. So we had Gauthier last week. This week, Leo Carlsson leads off our Hobby 3 Stars. He is off to a great start to the season, a rookie in the 23-24 products. When a lot of you were out there chasing Connor Bedard cards, Leo Carlsson was maybe the runner-up prize when you were ripping that year. If you didn't get Bedard, you were probably hoping to get at least a Leo Carlsson. Well, Leo Carlsson's turning into the superstar Anaheim wanted him to turn into. Folks, just to put it in perspective, looking at the card ladder data, before the season started in early October, that week before the season started, PSA 10, 23-24 Upper Deck Young Gun rookies of Leo Carlsson, $68 to $92 in that portion of October before the NHL season started. In the last week, sales anywhere between $235 and $312 on card ladder. So that card has seen a sizable increase. His play on the ice has warranted that. Leo Carlsson turning into the superstar that the very entertaining Anaheim Ducks hoped that he would. Mention Nathan McKinnon off the top. Off to a great start to the season, leading the league in points here early on through just over a month. Recent BGS 9.5 sales between $450 and $624. Now that $624 sale looked like a little bit of an outlier. That one was a BGS 9.5 true gem. So the subgrades were all at least a 9.5 on that card. That's why it got the $624 sale. The high 400s, low 500s seems to be the going rate for one of those compared to a lot of the other players and a lot of the new stuff, especially considering we're talking about something from over a decade ago. Nathan McKinnon seems like a good, safe place to park your money if you're buying cards of a superstar player who is Hall of Fame bound. And David Pastrnak, 400 goals. He's over a point a game again this season for the Boston Bruins, who may be exceeding some expectations that a lot of folks out there set for them. Recent BGS 9.5 sale, $370 per card ladder. Now, this opens up another debate. PSA 9, a recent PSA 9 sale, $364. Are you really only valuing the BGS 9.5 $6 more than a PSA 9? Again, that's a whole different conversation, and you had a milestone being hit. You have the Bruins playing well, so maybe there's some extra sales movement there as far as the David Pastrnak rookies are concerned. But again, one of the great goal scorers in the game today, and he's off to another great start to this season. So your Hobby 3 Stars there, Leo Carlsson, Nathan McKinnon, and David Pastrnak here for the week. Looking at some of the questions that you had for us, looking at some different questions coming in. I had one come in from Greg on Twitter, asked what my favorite card shops in South Florida here are. And I know it's an area that a lot of folks like to travel to. If you're down here, there are some good places to visit. AA Mint Cards in Cooper City, Florida. Friends of mine, great people down there. Check out the shop, one of the innovative shops, one of the really just vibrant shops that you can step into. And again, I really like going to AA Mint Cards. All-Star Sports Cards and Collectibles in Davie as well. Jeff, the owner, really good guy, sets up at a lot of local shows here too. And again, those are just a couple of the shops that I consider my favorite down here in South Florida. We have a question coming in from Will, and I've got to find it here on Twitter. The question from Will. I did save it, and I know it's called X these days, but I still am so conditioned. I remember when Twitter first came out. Anyway, here we go. Will says or asks on Twitter, it's always tough to predict what a player will do, but can you think of any diamonds in the rough who may be good collector options for young guns? And you mentioned that years ago, you remember being able to pick up a Matt Barzal young gun relatively cheap before his market took off. And that would have been going back a decade. Talked about a couple of guys last week when we really highlighted Anaheim, players that are under $10. And I would consider those to be for guys that are making some noise. And a sub $10 young gun is a good buy. But just looking at Anaheim, Lukas Dostal, they seem to identify him as the franchise goaltender. You can pick up his young guns in that neighborhood. Mason McTavish, another guy who was a third overall pick a couple of years back. I think that is somebody who could be a good pickup and a guy that has a potentially bright future ahead of him with an Anaheim team that's on the rise. I mentioned last week Yaroslav Askarov, the goaltender for the Sharks. Those are hovering just shy of $10, give or take a little bit. And again, he's off to a nice start and is going to have every opportunity from San Jose to be the franchise goaltender. So I look at those as a few good options. Other ones that come to mind right here with the Florida Panthers. Anton Lundell, a player that I've just really enjoyed being able to watch every single night since he's come into the National Hockey League. He has a young gun back in 21-22. And you look at guys from the 2020 draft, there's nobody who's played more playoff games than Anton Lundell. He's got 2 Stanley Cup rings already. He's playing in an elevated role right now with the Panthers dealing with some injuries early in the season. And he is continuing to trend upward. And he's been playing a lot with Brad Marchand and Eetu Luostarinen this season, putting up some nice numbers. So he's been a guy, and I know, Will, you're a Panthers fan. I know I'm not telling you anything you don't know, but Anton's a special player, and you can pick up his young guns, in a pretty for a pretty reasonable price, well under $10 at this point from that 21-22 set. So those are just a handful of the guys that I think I would be eyeballing as far as a low-priced young gun here at this point in time. So those are a couple of the items I wanted to get to this week. Best card I've pulled. Hector on Twitter asked this one. Best card I've pulled. So this is an interesting one. If I had to look back, and maybe at the moment I didn't realize it, and I may not have realized it because I was 11 years old at the time. But if you go all the way back, remember Collector's Choice Basketball, Upper Deck Collector's Choice Basketball? I pulled the Players Club Platinum parallel, was 1 per box. And I pulled this playoff time subset card of Michael Jordan. He's actually wearing number 45 in the card. And I knew at the time it was a card that it was cool. It was a good pull. It was a Jordan 1 per box parallel. Threw it in one of those, the old school screw down holders back in the day. And it actually stayed in that screw down holder for a long time. Just, I'd say probably 5-6 years ago, I sent it off to SGC. It came back at 10. It's the card number 353 Players Club Platinum from 95-96 Collector's Choice. To this day, it's still a Pop 1 SGC 10. I think the PSA pop count on a PSA 10 is maybe 10 or 11. So there aren't that many gems of the card, and it's from 1995, and it's a Jordan card, and it's a 1 per box parallel. If I'm looking now, I've been opening cards my whole life. That still might be the best card I've pulled, and I don't really know how to value it because, again, there aren't a lot of gems. It's the only SGC 10. I know everybody's got differing views on what their favorite grading companies are, but I've always wondered what that card would fetch if I were to decide to sell it, but it brings back a great childhood memory. I know it's a Jordan card. It's safe. It's rare based on the pop reports. I would say that's probably the best card that I pulled if I had to go all the way back in time. The only one of one, and I did get a printing plate out of a Topps Update baseball box a couple of years ago of Kyle Isbell from the Royals, but I don't really look at printing plates the same. The only one of one I've ever hit was in a break from our friends at Mojo Break. And I had the Carolina Hurricanes because they were very cheap in an O-Pee-Chee Platinum break. And I just wanted to check out the product, and the cards were nice and they were still available. And again, it was a clearance spot. And I got the Andrei Svechnikov Golden Treasures 1 of 1 out of 22-23 O-Pee-Chee Platinum. The only real 1 of 1 that I've hit. And I've now been debating with myself, do I send that card off for grading or not? Because I know there's the different views of grading 1 of 1 cards, but that would be probably the current rarest card that I've pulled. So some great questions this week. Again, more than we could get to, and we could save some for topics at other times. Value break spot for the week, and I have tried this one a couple of weeks back, as a matter of fact, but there are still some Upper Deck Series 1 breaks taking place. And if you get a deal on the Nashville Predators, I think you can have some fun there. They have 3 young guns in the set, and Matthew Wood looks like, for one, he's potentially going to be a heck of a player. He was a first-round pick in Nashville not too long ago, had that hat trick again about a week or so ago. It's a guy to keep an eye on. And the Nashville Predators do have Steven Stamkos, Jonathan Marchessault has a lot of inserts, so there are a lot of different cards you can hit, but 3 young guns, and they're maybe, I'd say, middle of the road in terms of the pricing as far as the break spots go in Series 1. So that's my value break spot of the week. If you have a chance to grab Nashville in a Series 1 Upper Deck break here in 25-26, could be one of those, sneaky good spots that you could find. That's all we have for you here this week, folks. Big thanks to Troy Licastro from David Adams Card World for stopping by. Thanks to Rebecca on the other side for great production work as always. And thanks to all of you for tuning in. Again, I'm Doug Plagens, and this has been Nonsense on Ice.